It was a really nice win, and I just think that overall, one thing that has really stuck out to me is the young players have provided this energy for the ball club. And there's going to be nights where a guy like Tyler Fitzgerald gets subbed in as a pinch runner, and you have one job. It's not to get picked off in that situation as you're running for Wilmer Flores a couple of nights ago. But they're going to make mistakes. But you know what? The veterans are making mistakes too.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of similarities, not a ton, but there are a lot of similarities between the Warriors and the Giants over the last couple of years. Veterans make mistakes too. And the tolerance level for some of the youngsters' mistakes, they just need to be increased. Like, we need to have more patience. Matos, and we were talking about it yesterday, and some of his angles and his routes, and not the purest center fielder. I don't think he's a natural center fielder.
No.
That being said, they signed Jung-Hoo Lee for a 5-year deal, in part because I believe that they think that Matos is not a center fielder. Now, can he play there in a pinch? Sure. And he made a really nice play last night.
Great play.
Totally redeems himself on a rough night the night before where he misplayed multiple balls. But that's what you're going to get with some of the young guys. And here's the number one takeaway that I have after last night's game, and we'll get to Logan Webb. If Ramos and Matos are hitting line drives the way that they are with runners in scoring position and the exit velo coming off the bat is scorching red hot like it was, I can live with some mistakes here and there.
I can too.
Just keep hitting, young men.
Hey, you know what? I got some excitement and some joy out of watching Ramos and Matos in the outfield together, high five, and
yes,
you know, Matos got the cool looking glove in center field. What is that, turquoise?
Yeah, it's a mint,
the little mint.
It's very
I like
popular.
the swagger.
Yeah,
it reminds me of some of my favorite center fielders: the D. Lews, the Marvin Benars, the Angel Pagans, the Gregor Blancos. Who's the guy? Andres Torres. I mean, it reminds me of that swagger, that Latino swagger that this market, this community, this team desperately needs. You see them high-fiving after the game, having some fun there. Ramos with a big hit late in the game. I like it. Just let me see it play out. Now, I get the outrage over the last 2 days. I'll say this, Shasky, because I listened to you guys the last 45 minutes and listened to a little bit of Steiny and Guru as I was dropping off my daughter and running errands yesterday trying to get right. I think the outrage on Farhan for this series or during this series, I think the timing's off. The timing's off. You had to know that going in to play the Dodgers, knowing that all your guys are dropping like flies. Jung-Hoo Lee, pitchers, you don't have Blake Snell. You got injuries galore around the infield. Nick Ahmed, Chapman's trying to find himself. Jorge Soler's injured himself in the batting cage again. I mean, I've never seen anything like that.
Bonte, I've never, ever seen anything like that.
I've never seen that.
I mean, no one ever wears a helmet in batting practice. Like, we do go to the cages all the time with the kids. You never wear a helmet. And now I'm saying, I think I should be telling these kids to wear a helmet because heaven forbid something happened where it ricochets off of it. I mean, he could have broke his eye orbital or whatever they call it, the socket.
It's time to wear a helmet because of Jorge Soler.
I can't believe that.
So I just think the timing on the Farhan, like we know about Farhan.
Of course.
So next time we have a conversation, I think, about Farhan Zaidi is around the trade deadline. See where the Giants are at around the trade deadline, and what does he do? Buy or sell, considering what's happening. Yeah, whatever. It depends where they're at in the standings.
I know, I would like them to sell off.
That's the next deep philosophical conversation about Farhan Zaidi.
Okay.
That's it. That's to me, because we already know his time is ticking. To me, it's a couple things with the Giants. And I'm not outraged because they just won the series against Cincinnati. And I think Cincinnati's a good ball club. I think they're a young, up-and-coming good ball club.
I really like Cincinnati.
So I'm not going to get outraged because they lost an extra inning game to the Dodgers on Monday night. A hard-fought game. You're in that thing. Your youngsters made some mistakes. It is what it is. Tuesday night, it got out ahead. You bounce back and prevent the sweep yesterday. So I'm not going to be outraged on Farhan this morning. We know who he is. Everybody knows how we feel about Farhan Zaidi. We don't believe he fits. We don't believe in his philosophy. We don't believe in his farm system. That will play itself out. My question, though, is into this as we look at the season right now, Shasky, is what's been the difference between Melvin and Kapler? What's been the difference? Because the Giants right now are 20-25. They're 9 games out the NL West. And I see a lot of panic sometimes from Bob Melvin. I'm not 100% on board with the usage of his bullpen or how he utilizes his bullpen.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not the biggest fan of that. I'm not the biggest fan of his lineup construction. I'm going to assume that he's penciling in 1 through 9. I have to, right? He's in the room. But I ask you, as a baseball guy, what's been the difference between Kapler and Melvin through the first 45 games of the season?
I haven't seen much of a difference. And here's a great example. When Austin Slater was healthy, what did they do with Austin Slater?
Battle lead off.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't believe that Bob Melvin believes that Austin Slater should be batting leadoff. I refuse to believe it. As someone who's a baseball lifer with Pat Burrell in the dugout and Matt Williams in the dugout, I have a hard time thinking that they're like, you know what? Let's slide Jung-Hoo Lee to the 3-hole, 4-hole, and let's lead off Austin Slater. That's just one of many little microtransactions, substitutions, lineup patterns that I've noticed. So again, what's the difference? Well, there is no difference because to me, I feel like a lot of the who's playing, when they're playing, how they're playing, positions they're playing, who we're going to in certain situations is being dictated by the front office. And that to me tells me, oh, well, you changed out the dugout and the manager, but if the philosophy and the principles are all going to continue to come through the front office,
right,
you're full of it because you told me you're going to allow the manager to have more baseball IQ. Now, Sam Lubman, I know you don't want to get into this, but I am going to get into this. I've listened and watched the body language of Bob Melvin when being peppered with certain questions. We listened to Dave Fleming yesterday explain that Bob runs hot.
Yeah.
And Bob's a lot more fiery than he anticipated. That to me tells me, and I've just been thinking about this, I don't think he's happy with being told who needs to play where and when. This is a guy, Bob Melvin, who just got into a war with a GM down in San Diego. Yeah. This is a guy, Bob Melvin, who lost that war, lost that job, and had to find a job up in San Francisco. So if you're asking me, is there a difference? No. And I think Bob's already frustrated.
And that's because the front office.
That's my feel.
And that's because the front office is
still doing the exact same thing.
Right. And so what's the point of hiring Bob Melvin?
Exactly.
Is it to appease the fan base? Save your job? Because we already know Farhad, put Farhad to the side for a second. You and I both thought this guy should have been gone 2 years ago. Last year. To me, he's already on borrowed time. It's just a matter of time for the Giants. And it's Steiny Guru, the little part about them that I heard yesterday, we talk about in-season firings. Has there been GMs recently fired in season? I think the Mets may have fired one of their GMs in season. Maybe Neil O'Shea with the Portland Trail Blazers. But it doesn't happen as much in baseball and the NBA. But Farhad, if this thing does go down the track, because if you look at the youngsters, right? Reggie Crawford, perfect example, going to AAA. I thought we were getting our Shohei Ohtani. When he got drafted, oh, man, this guy pitches, this guy hits, he does everything. Wait, now he's a lefty reliever? He's a lefty reliever? Wait, what's going on here? Then I see Sean Jelly in a high-pressure situation yesterday. So I asked you that because Sean Jelly relieved Logan Webb. I'm thinking, why is Sean Jelly in this game? We got to win this game.
Well, you know why? And I'm not trying to defend Bob Melvin. I do believe they have a very limited amount of people in that bullpen that they trust.
Yeah.
But again, that's not a Bob Melvin problem.
That's a front office problem.
It's a roster construction problem. Yep. I'm with you. Can I cite something from the other day that really irked me, and I haven't had a chance to really dive into it, and I just want your opinion on it. I have a philosophy. My closer comes into games to close them out.
Right.
Camilo Duvall is paid not for his ERA, not for his WHIP or things like that. He is paid if he gets 40 or 50 saves. That's what a closer is judged by, and that's what they're paid by. Would you agree with that?
Yep. Shutting down the game, getting the final 3 outs of a baseball game.
Okay.
Or the most critical 3 outs in the last 3 innings of a baseball game.
Okay. So Camilo Duvall comes in the 9th inning of a tie game Monday night. He replaces Tyler Rogers.
Right.
He faces Andy Pagas. I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name. Kiki Hernandez, who had hit a home run earlier in that game. Okay. And Mookie Betts. He threw 8 pitches.
Yeah.
And then he came out of the game, a tie game.
Right.
Why? Because you had Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani coming up, who are lefties.
This is my closer.
Who is your best pitcher? See, again,
this
baseball,
is my closer. Yeah.
Baseball IQ.
Yeah. I'm
trust a struggling Taylor, whatever, the lefty Rogers?
Taylor Rogers.
I always confuse them.
Yeah. Tyler Rogers and Taylor.
Camilo Duvall, who hadn't pitched a lot, and threw 8 pitches.
You know me, I'm old school. As I'm looking at on my computer, I haven't opened it up since when I was here, Monday show. And the first thing that's popped up is that box score from Game 7 of the Minnesota Twins Braves Game 7.
Yeah.
When Jack Morris goes 10 innings. You think it mattered whether or not Jack Morris was facing a lefty late in the game or a righty left in the game? That's what I'm saying. This is old school baseball. Sometimes you got to go with the best versus the best. We don't see Gagne Bonds if we go with these analytics. Say, oh, well, we need a lefty, all lefty. No. You go with your best. You go with your gut. You just say, you know what, Camilo? We're going to trust you to get 3 outs. You're going to have to do this. And if you want to get close to the Dodgers, if you want to get close to the Padres, you got to go mano a mano with these dudes. So I was with you there Monday night with the Camilo Duvall situation.
So Shohei comes up. Now, look, you want to go advanced numbers on me? Freddie Freeman hits significantly worse against lefties than he does against righties. Fine. But you walked him. The lefty came in and walked him with a guy at second base. Now, what you also have to understand, in the 10th inning, the 9th inning, 8 pitches, he's still good. In the 10th inning, you have an inherited runner.
Yep.
Let's get strategy baseball style here. What do I have to have with a guy at second base and no outs if I'm the pitcher or I'm the defense? I want a pop-up.
Yep.
I want a strikeout.
Yep.
I want a comebacker.
Yep.
Who is more likely to get me one of those 3 outcomes?
Camilo Duvall. Or it's not the worst thing in the world to say, hey, if I'm facing Shohei here and I want to be careful, I still have first base open. The double play's still in play. So I can get Freddie Freeman maybe to roll one over. Now I'm working with a runner on third and 2 outs.
It's again.
You know what I'm saying? So you got first base open. It's not the worst thing in the world to face Shohei and, hey, you know what? I'm going to just give Shohei a free pass. The worst thing in the world in that situation. Now, obviously, if Freddie Freeman hits one to the gap, Shohei scored
that's
from
what Will
first.
Smith did on the very next at bat.
Anyway, he did it anyway, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally do.
So
I just look at it this way. Like, that to me, Monday night was a microcosm of, not much has changed. That's what it was to me, is we're going to play the righty-lefty matchup. We're going to go straight analytics, not what I call manalytics, right? Where I'm going to allow one of my best players, one of my go-to men.
Right.
My go-to man. If the season's on the line, I mean, it wasn't in this game, but if it is, you're going down with Camilo over the Rogers brothers. Like, let's just call it what it is. So that's I know I got real geeky there.
No,
but that to me is a microcosm of nothing's changed.
See, listen, man. 925 Xfinity Mobile text line. Streets are saying King Bonte doesn't watch the games. That's funny. It is funny. Watching these last 2 games and watching the Giants this season, I thought, just stepping back, and I told you this on the phone yesterday when we talked, I think the outrage after these 2 games, again, the timing's off. If you're going to be outraged about some losses, be outraged about the sweep of Philadelphia when you don't win 1 and 4. You don't win 1 game. You got swept in a 4-game series. You're overmatched. But I'm not going to be outraged by getting beat up by the Dodgers. We know what that lineup looks like. Can you be competitive? They have been competitive against the Dodgers. Now, I'm not a moral victory guy. You guys all know that. But I understand where this team is at right now. The Giants, that is. Jonathan Kuminga. We're all, as a fan base, discussing whether or not the Warriors should trade him or not to get assets. Mm-hmm. He's become that much of a player. Mm-hmm. But we wouldn't have known if he was going to be a player if things didn't happen during the season.
Yes.
Lubman brought up yesterday on the show call. He goes, Bonte, you were at the softball game. He goes, Bonte, it's just the fact that they called these guys up. It's going to be in the back of everybody's mind that they got called up when people were injured. I said, who cares?
Yeah, just make the most of it.
Do we care?
No.
That Draymond got the starting spot because David Lee got hurt?
No, he made the most of it, and then you couldn't turn back.
Do we care that Jordan Poole became a legit NBA player knowing that Klay Thompson was out? No, we don't care. Do you care about the championship?
I'll go with the Giants for a particular. Brandon Belt got the job in 2011 because Aubrey Huff was like MIA mentally. Remember that?
Yep, absolutely.
Does anybody remember that?
Absolutely. So we don't care that Cody Ross got to play in the playoffs because Jose Guillen got popped. What did he get sent to his house with steroids?
PEDs. And I had heard about that a couple days before it happened. Oh, boy. Yeah. I'm not going to give up my sources on. Sources are telling me. That was incredible. So, no one ever brings that up.
So nobody's going to care if Matos Ramos, Schmidt, Luciano, and all these guys ball out. We're not going to care that they got a job because somebody got injured. No. Now it's up to the young men, Matos, Ramos, Schmidt, and the rest of the crew, to go out there and ball out.
Yes.
And show why you're legit major leaguers. Show me why you're not AAA guys anymore. That's why. You have the opportunity of a lifetime. And Jonathan Kuminga with the Golden State Warriors recently. The reason why I go with JK, because it just happened for us right here in this market. JK, don't matter. You can go run to the media. You can talk to Steve Kerr. You got to go out there and perform. But remember that first game? He didn't perform well against Detroit.
No.
Cade Cunningham was cooking his ass all night long on a Friday night. Did JK got his game right? He averaged 20 the rest of the season. So all I'm saying is this is a blessing in disguise. The youngsters are getting to play, and they're playing against one of the best teams in baseball, one of the best lineups, one of the best pitching staffs, and they're getting a crash course on how to play Major League Baseball. So after last night, I'm watching Matos and Ramos high five, and Matos is coming through with an RBI single. Ramos has the big time double that scores Estrada from first. I'm saying, okay, kids, that's what I'm talking about. And Casey Smith plays some good defense.
He is.
I'm not mad at that. The young kids are playing, so let's see how it plays out.
Well, and I would add to that, they made the move I wanted them to make, and I will give him credit on that. I was talking about Blake Sable is not a defensive catcher. You needed a defensive catcher, and they acquired Kirk Casale. Now he's at the end. Look, he's not. You're not going to blow anyone away. I'm not here to like pretend that he's even in remotely a starter, but he knows how to call a game. He does. He just knows how to call a game. And he's better defensively than Blake Sable. You needed to get some stability there. Poor guy Skeets is just not a big leaguer.
He's not a big leaguer.
And the Tom Murphy thing blew up in their face. You got rid of Bart, fine, whatever. You were hell-bent on acquiring Tom Murphy for $4 million a year. No one was giving him that money. And now you've moved him to the 60-day IL. I'm glad you went out and got Kirk Casale, because I know at the minimum, Kirk Casale can call a game. No doubt. It looked like Logan Webb and him were on the exact same page.
No doubt. But they get a big win.
Huge win.
Again, I'm going to push Farhan to the side. Let's see how this plays out. You got a red-hot Colorado Rockies team coming in this weekend. You can try to get right against them. And then, next thing you know, you have a winning homestand. That's all it was about. We looked at this 9-game homestand. Spinoni was in last week saying, boy, this 9-game homestand, I was more intrigued with this one than the 10-game road trip that they went on, because I knew it's going to be tough in Philly. Philly's a good team. They might be the best team in the National League. Even against the Dodgers. They may beat the Dodgers. But what they do here, 3 against Colorado, then you got the Pittsburgh Pirates and the New York Mets. Now these get interesting before you get to Philly in late May. And then, of course, you got the Phillies and the Yankees. You know how I like to look at the schedule here. But can you stay afloat? Can you tread water here? Because you're only 2 out in the wild card. It's not like you're out of the playoff race already. Let's see what the young kids do. Can they stabilize this roster? Can they stabilize it? And can Matos and Ramos go ahead and take these jobs away? That's what it's about right now, Shasky. Can you take these jobs away?
I've already seen more from both of the young players. And look, he's been a good Giant. He's had his opportunity. We don't need to see any more of Austin Slater.